and welcome back to another episode of Masked Monologues. Today I have with me an indie author who has written, I believe, 13 books. Her name is Theet. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how long you've been writing for, and just walk us through why you started writing in the first place?
Yeah. So at the moment, I think I have 12 books out. I did start a series recently, so that would be the 13th one. I started writing as a way of healing through a period of depression. My therapist used to tell me journaling, just write as whenever you feel down, begin writing. But journaling wasn't really helping me.
Mhm.
So I did writing The Camp Within Us. And that actually really did help. And I was able to put Niti, the main character's name, and I put her through the stuff that I've been through, which is you'll see like her stuff with her uncle. And that's the depression phase that I went through was because of my uncle. Him and his family had come from India in March of 2021. And from there on, like they stayed with us for 6 months. And it was just a time of depression. So everything that anything goes through is what I've been through. Other than that, I do write fictional romance books.
Wow, that's a wonderful story. I love how you draw from your Indian influences. May I ask why 12, now 13 books? Because you said you started off journaling because your therapist told you it would be something cathartic. Why have you written 13 books? How long did that take you?
One, I'm jobless. So that's like my way of having some income at least. Two, I also noticed lack of Punjabi representation. There's been like Indian representation, but it's always like Bollywood based. And I wanted to add like actual Punjabi representation into literature and into the world in that sense. And then what was your other question?
My question was, you said that you started writing because it's your job, so you wrote 13 books because it's your source of income. When did you start writing, and how long did it take you to write those 13 books?
So I started writing in 2022, and as of April 25th, 2024, I had the 12th book published.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
pretty good for 2 years. Yeah.
And usually because I'm not working, I do have more time and, I'm not like dating. I don't have a family or like or anything of that
Yeah.
sort. So I do have the time and freedom to just sit and write in that.
And you say that you are feeling this sort of need in the market for Punjabi representation. Can you tell us a little bit about the Punjabi culture and how it varies from like you were saying, Bollywood?
Yeah, definitely. Compared to Bollywood films, like the weddings and stuff, Punjabi weddings are more fun. They have different events. We do like a jungle, which is like the pre-wedding, like everybody wake up, it's a wedding day tomorrow. So we have like full on party, everybody's dancing, getting hyped for the wedding. That's the next day. They don't do that in like Bollywood. So I guess I would put that in category.
Yes.
And the other thing is also the way that we talk, the ceremonies, the holidays, everything that you'll see. Somebody will be Indian. Indian representations, obviously, in books. It's very different from the way us Punjabi people talk, the holidays we celebrate, our religion falls into keys. Most people are Hindu that you see in India. So there's a lot of differences. And I love to talk about those like in the book, The Champ We Took, I did talk about Visakhi. I talk about Lordy.
Hmm.
Lordy, basically in January, we celebrate the longer days coming back and we
Yes.
celebrate newlywed couples or a new baby being in the family. That'll be celebrated like in January with a big party and a bonfire. And then Visakhi is basically our sixth new year as well.
Wow, that's wonderful. I love how you've drawn from, especially immerse yourself in that culture because you're Punjabi then, because your family's Punjabi. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you usually, I'm assuming, are you based in America?
Yes, I was born and raised in California.
So have you traveled back to India to see your family and just immerse yourself in the culture when you were there, as you weren't born and raised in India?
So I went back in 2009, and after that, we did not want to go again. It was just an awful experience. I can say that, yeah, it was a very bad experience. When we were there for 5 weeks, it was super hot. People were dehydrating. My brother, when we came back to San Francisco, he had to be in the ER, like literally, I think the night of for
Wow.
dehydration. And
I'm
then I got really sick too. My sister had like stuff on her body, like just started coming up like these bruise like things, but they weren't bruises. The only people like I think that we're able to get anything where my
Mhm.
parents, obviously they're from India. So they were
Yes.
like So after 2009, it is now 2024. So it's been over a decade and I don't want to go back unless my big thing, and I do put this in my books too, is adoption. From adopting from there, I do not want to ever go back. I learned my lesson. I was like, I've been there. I'm good.
Yeah. I want to transition a little bit into your writing process. Since this is your full-time day job, can you tell me how you structure your day?
So right now I am working on getting certified as well in data analytics. So I haven't been writing like too much in that sense because I needed to focus on my homework and focus on like the exams and all that stuff. But usually whenever I get time, I don't have a structure. It's just whenever I get time. And then when the book is, I actually write it in my notes app on my phone. Whenever I'm like, okay, this book is ready, then I'll put it together as a Google Doc. And
Yes.
from there, I'll send it to the editor and then I'll wait and see feedback. I'll wait
Mhm.
feedback.
Yes. Do you ever use the voice text to speech to text app on your phone when you're writing? Does that make it faster for you, or do you not use it at all?
I use it, but not when I'm writing. I
Mhm.
use it to send a text or something, but I
Yes.
won't when I'm writing because I do a lot of just yesterday for the book that I'm working on, the series that's coming out. He had surprised her with like traditional outfits. So
Yes.
like a and like a nautical. So I can't say that to voice to text. So I have
Right.
to write it out. I have to explain like what it looks like, the Georgia fabric, the embroidery, all that stuff.
Yes. And when it comes to writing the story, do you have an outline before you start writing chapters, or do you just have this idea in your head and you think I'm going to get it down on a piece of paper and then start editing it as I develop my ideas and the plot, or is it beforehand prior to even writing?
No, it is the latter, the idea of just having it in my head. So
Yeah.
when it pops up, I will open my notes app and I'll just structure it down. And that's how I do it because I know in school they always teach you write your beginning, write your middle,
Hmm.
write your ending, this and that. But
Yes.
for me, I think that's fine for like school work, like as all that. But for creative writing, that's just literally you have to unlearn that.
Yes. No, I love how you say that you have to unlearn that because a lot of the times we're told to do everything linear. So starting from beginning to end, as you were saying, but when it comes to pursuing creative endeavors, it's funny how much you have to distance yourself from that linear like structure, and it's more like a brainstorm, a web, and just branching out from there. I'm wondering, do you write chapter by chapter, or do you start one chapter and then go to chapter 13, come back to chapter 2, go to chapter 5, or do you like to work on it a section at a time?
No, definitely the second one again. I literally, like I'm saying, sometimes I even write the epilogue before I write and anything else because
Mhm.
that's how the book's going to end or I want this to happen right now. As I'm saying, like this book that I'm working on, but I just wrote like the chapter where he confesses, but this is the forced proximity, like kind of enemies to lovers, forced proximity, arranged marriage trope. And so I'm like writing like I wrote two of the hate chapters and then I wrote like working confesses and then I'll go back and work on what I need to work on.
Yeah. No, I love how you just concentrate on what the thoughts you have in your mind and focus on those, and then come back to other ideas, build on them as you're writing. That's amazing. I'm wondering, so you write in the romance genre. Can you tell me why you chose romance as opposed to any other genre out there for books?
Honestly, I was always like been reading romance. So that's what I wanted to write, especially like enemies to lovers, second chance. So I hit everything in the world of romance. You know, I've hit the
Hmm.
fitting date, I've hit enemies to lovers, second chance romance. And I actually did a reverse billionaire's trope as well. So the billionaire's gambit is the book's name. And our female lead is the one who is the rich, powerful, like the rich, powerful female entrepreneur
Yeah.
and the guy is a journalist. So I like switched it up because a lot of people love to read the billionaire's trope. Nobody really has done a rich female.
Yes. No, I love that, just switching up the roles. And I'm wondering, since it's romance genre, where do you get your inspiration from? Is it just everyday life, maybe friends you've talked to in the past, or if you were a creator writing in the romance genre, where would you advise that writer to get their inspiration from?
Honestly, it just comes to me. Like I can be watching something or I can be like just laying down and it'll just come to me. Not saying like I'll plagiarize an idea or something, like if
Mhm.
I'm watching, but and I don't like to bounce off like other authors either, send this to because I
Yes.
don't want to be taking from them. But usually, like when I'm laying down before bed and I'm like having these delulu thoughts, I guess you can say, but that's usually when the ideas come to me. What do I want in my husband? And then I'll start writing.
No, I love that, just having those thoughts in your mind and then translating them, and as you were saying, not plagiarizing or copying it, but maybe just borrowing certain ideas.
I guess I'm like borrowing a certain idea from like Ada Holmes' like Twisted series. I don't know if
Mhm.
you read it, the Twisted series.
No, I'm not familiar with it, but for those listeners who might be, continue.
I'm not copying like anything of that show in that sense, but she did a series of four friends and everybody got their own book. And that's what I'm doing. If I wanted to do a series, I should do,
Yeah,
and that's all I like was like, okay, I can probably do that too. But she did it with two Chinese characters, Josh and Ava were Chinese. But for me, all my characters are like Punjabi because that's the
mhm,
representation putting out in the world, right? And I think that'll be like way different because like culture will be different, obviously the whole storyline, the whole series, like everything about it is going to be different.
yes,
And I do write Closed Door or Fade to Black romance books, whereas hers do have kind of smut scenes in them. And
yeah,
I don't either.
yeah. No, I love how you're representing the Punjabi community. That's wonderful. I want to explore a little bit about what it's like to be an indie author because may I ask, are you self-published or do you have a publisher?
No, I am self-published.
Okay. So I'm just wondering for a lot of self-published authors, because I've interviewed self-published authors, I'm a self-published author myself, how you go about marketing your books, getting them read, and just getting them out into the world, because writing a book nowadays seems to be the easy part, and getting people to actually read them seems to be a lot more challenging.
Yeah, so for me, obviously, I do like book talk and bookstagram. And then I'm also like in a lot of Facebook groups where indie authors are like encouraged to promote their work. I know one of the books contracted together, a lot of people want to read it simply because of the cover.
Yes.
And the cover has that representation on it. So a lot of people are like, that was the book that when I put out, I got like right away $100 in royalties because everyone just saw the cover and they're like, oh, I want to read this. I want to read this.
Yes. No.
So probably your cover will be your seller. And then I also give any books that I like put out, I give it to the high school that I graduated from. So a lot of students have read my works in that sense. And teenagers nowadays are on book talk and
Mhm.
everything. So like they'll talk about it on there. It's not like a lot, but it's like something like read. And then I was like, wait, that's true. Every time I come here to give a book, contracted together is always checked out. And our librarian, Miss Edwards, I think I'm gonna have to start a wait list on that book.
Yes. No, that's wonderful, like, how you just have that close-knit community that you're able to share your work with, and even just taking it to a high school, that's inspiring for high school kids.
Yeah.
And can you tell me why you started writing? Was it just something that you thought you'd do one day? Were you interested in it even growing up? And just how did you get into writing?
I used to be one of those people that in her teenage years wrote fan fictions,
Mhm.
but that it was never something that I wanted to do as a career.
Yes.
I was a teacher, a middle school teacher, and then
Mhm.
I was also a pandemic graduate for my master's at the
Mhm.
time. So it was really hard for me to find work. And that's when I was in therapy and she told me like to start writing, like at the way of, and that kind of just kickstarted my love for writing.
Mhm.
And now I'm working on a series.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, were you ever hesitant to start writing, especially when it came to writing a book? Because there's a difference between journaling in your own private notebook every day and actually creating a book that you're putting out into the world. Was there any fear or stigma there?
Not really, because I knew that if I wanted to heal, I had to do it. Like I, even now on podcasts, like I don't even mind going and just talking about like my uncle and
Mhm.
just share it is my story at the end of the day.
And can you tell me, you said there was that one book that was waitlisted, everybody wanted to check it out. Can you tell me why you think that book, resonated with your audience the most?
The cover, I think the cover had the representation on it too. But then
Uh-huh.
also a lot of teachers are checking it out too because main character is a kindergarten teacher. With the chance we took, it's one like if you open my Amazon and you put like Jyoti Dhanota in it,
Mhm.
and the chance we took pops up at the top because that book did really well in sale. It's a second chance romance, and a lot of people will relate to the characters in the sense that he's a photographer, she's an event planner. People do these things, right? But then also they are like divorced and she's a single mom. She's raising kids on her own. And again, it's like relatable to so many people. So.
Yeah, no, I love just having relatable characters, and chances are that more people will want to read your book because they'll be able to relate to those characters. There's people who are kindergarten teachers, there's people who are single mothers, there's people who are photographers, and just creating that audience, that niche, and especially having those Punjabi cultural influences just ties everything together for you.
Yeah, and that's why I thought I was going to be done writing after the books, but then I was like, you know what? If all the seniors are reading my books, I actually wrote Finding Hope for it's dedicated to seniors in high school,
Yes.
and it talks about everything that I related to when I was a senior, and it's an enemies to lovers book. But it also talks about make sure you do everything your senior year because you're going to sit at graduation and that's when it's going to hit you. Like, I'm never going to see these people again. Like, I've seen them
Mhm.
for years, you know?
Yeah.
Like they've been with me for, oh no, not 18 years, but since the kindergarten to high school. And then all of a sudden it's like everybody's going to go and start their own life. You might not see each other after college, most of it. And I think in the book I wrote, before you know it, you're going to be packing up 18 years into like boxes to move so fast. And that was like for the seniors to make
Mhm.
sure that the most of it, everything.
Yes, no, I love that. Did you also relate that back to your high school experience?
Oh yeah, I told myself senior year, I even told myself that I'm going to do everything. I did
Mhm.
senior sunset, sober grad, prom,
Mhm.
every possible thing that I could. I was in the clubs and I even had like positions in these clubs. I was on the yearbook. Like thing that I told myself that I would do, I did do.
Yes. Oh, that's truly
Minus that
inspiring.
night, I didn't go to Disneyland that night. It's like now it's too much.
Yeah. No, I love that, just telling kids to do it, because if you don't do it, then when else are you going to get to do it? And it's just an opportunity that is not taken advantage of.
That's true. And
Yes.
it's also one time possibly, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying like your friendships aren't gonna last, but after college, like people make new friends.
Yes. And
Not
it's
a priority anymore. And I literally grew up with her. We've been friends for 28 years almost. And in college, I went to junior college first because I didn't want to waste myself. Like, let me just go to community college first. There's nothing wrong with going to community college first. And she went straight to a 4 year. So she made other friends and I made other friends. And then I transferred to that university later. And then we just didn't get along as we used to in high school.
Yes. No, it's funny how people evolve, people change, and the people that you might have known in high school, if you meet them again in 10, 20 years, whenever, it's going to be a different relationship. Okay, so now I just want to ask you one last question, and it's about the editing process of your books. Do you send your books out to beta readers before publishing it, or who do you seek advice from?
Wait, so for like my editing stage, I go back and forth with an editor. So I've been writing on for a while now, right? I have two people under me now that are wanting to put books out.
Yes.
So what we do is we first send them to read it. They'll edit and they'll give like their 2 cents and stuff. And then some people that did my cover designs, like for the cover for Better Than Him and the paperback wrap and everything. They were from me. And now though, I do have friends that are like editors and stuff. It takes a while. It goes back and forth. And I recently just switched my editor from the one that I had to Hannah, who is author of Betrayed by Destiny. And she did the editing for the Billionaire's Gambit.
No,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. Just reaching out to friends who are also writers and especially drawing from Etsy Marketplace. I know that's blown up over the past, I think, 6 years or so. It used to be small because I knew about it when it was first coming out, and it's just to see its expansion and how many people use it. And it's so nice to actually meet the small business owners.
And I love to support small business. And I feel like the other thing about also being an indie author is you don't ever have to worry about like a deadline that you have to meet, or you don't have to worry about like the editor deleting a scene that you actually like really wanted in there. Or say your cover isn't, you can't choose this cover, it has to be like this. You have more freedom.
Yes. I know it's amazing the freedom and authority you have over your own creative work once you work for yourself and you dictate what you want to do with your writing.
But I stopped doing that because a lot of people will sign up, they'll take a book, they'll get yet, and then they'll like never leave a review.
Yeah.
So they got the free book and they're like, okay, cool.
Did you ever try following up with any of those people?
I try, but they don't like ever respond.
No.
So now there's a group on Facebook for I think it's called the art graders or something, and they like have every 2 or 3 months, I think, and your book has to be published, and sign up for people to so the authors will post their book, and then reviewers like will like say, hey, I want to read your book, and they are required to leave a review. So
Huh.
I just like,
Oh, that's a good way to do it. So, right now, I'm going to wrap up this podcast episode. If you want to shout out to any of your channels where people can find you, I don't know if you have a website or if it's just on Amazon, social media, whatever. Just this is your time.
yeah, so you guys can follow me on Instagram or TikTok at booked. GET is my website is Get the Rights, GET Rights.card, CARD.co.
Okay, thank you so much. And if you listeners like this podcast and you want more episodes like this, please share it with a friend and family member. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.